In this tutorial, we will take a look at HTTP status codes. So HTTP status codes are 3-digit numbers written by the web server to indicate outcome of a client request. Okay, so here we have a client and a server. Client makes request to server. Based on the status of the request which is processed by the server here, it returns the status code in the response. Okay, so status codes are classified into different series. So we have this 4 series here, mostly used: 200 series, 300, 400 and 500 series. So 200 series indicates request was successful. 300 series indicates the request was redirected. And 400 series indicates that there is an issue with the client request. And 500 series indicates the issue is on the server side. So let's take a look at them one by one. So we'll start with 200 series. Okay. So 200, okay. So client makes the request and server successfully processes that request and responds with the 200 okay and the requested resource. So you're trying to access a web page or a REST API, you get a response successfully. So this is a happy path. So for 201 created, the client makes the request to create a resource on the server side. Let's say you're trying to create a new account or register a new user or adding a comment. So client makes the request to create a resource and server successfully process that request. Okay, after creating the resource and responds with 201 created and the location header pointing to the new source here. 200 for no content. So here in this scenario, client makes the delete request to remove the resource and the server responds with 204 no content, indicating that the operation was successful and there is no content to return. So here the client is deleting the resource. You may delete a user, you may delete an account, or you may, for that matter, you may delete the comment. So this is for the delete. So let's take a look at the 300 series here. Okay, 300 series HTTP status codes indicate requested resources available at different location or should be accessed differently. So let's take a look at 301. So 301 move permanently status indicates the requested resource has been permanently moved to a new URL. Okay, so you're trying to access a URL, but in the location header get back, you get back the new URL. Okay, so client makes a request with, for example, here oldsite.com/show, but the server responds that it has moved permanently with 301 moved permanently status code. So let's take a so here again it is redirecting to the new URL and also it is caching it also. So here it is for 302 found status indicate the requested resource is located at a different URL, but the client should be using the original URL for the future request. So it's just for the maintenance purpose. Okay, so client doesn't here cache the new URL. Okay, it is indicating the client should be using the original URL for the future request. So let's take a look at 304. 304 not modify status indicates the requested resource has not changed since the last request. So client is should use a cached version. So here you're using a get request for, let's say, for downloading an image, and you have also cached this specific image here. So client sends the request with the cached timestamp using the if modified since resource. If the image is modified at the server level, if it is not modified here, the server responds with 304 not modified, so that the client can continue using the cache version because nothing is changed at the server side. So it is sending back 304 not modified status code. So let's take a look at the 400 series here. So 400 series indicates the issue is on the client side. So client may be making some mistake here. For example, for 400 bad requests, client sends the malformed incorrect request. So server responds with 400 bad requests. So what is this malformed request? It could be any incorrect format, incorrect for a resource, for incorrect formatting, invalid request parameter, exceeding URL length, or incorrect headers, or incorrect request body, or any invalid cookies which you are sending. So client If it is not in correct format, so client will send back 400 bad request status code. For 401, authorized indicates that the request lacks the valid authentication credential. It means you're sending the incorrect user ID, password, or invalid token here. Okay, so you may be having an incorrect credentials or missing authentication header, so it sends back 401 unauthorized status code. For 403, forbidden indicates that the client is authenticated but doesn't have permission to access the resource. So you may be having a required permission to access the request, but you may be trying to access the resource which are forbidden. Maybe you may be trying to access the admin resource or any other resource for which you are not having permission. It sends back 403 forbidden status code. 404 for not found indicates that the server doesn't find the requested resource here. Okay, it's very common. For example, the common causes here could be incorrect URL, resource has been moved, or the resource has been deleted by some deleted, or it may be a non-existent resource. You made some typing mistake. Okay, so in that scenario, you will get 404 not found status code. 429 too many requests indicated that client has sent too many requests in a very short time. Within a minute, you will be sending multiple requests to the client. Okay, so common causes are like API rates are rate limits are exceeded, or any bot attack happening, or IP based throttling. So the server may send back this 429 too many requests to indicate to the client that you are exceeding the limit which has been prescribed to you within a given amount of time. Okay, so let's take a look at 500 series here. So it 500 series indicates the issue on the server side. Okay, so 500 internal server, a very common error which we face. So this indicates that a server encountered an unexpected condition while fulfilling the request. So mostly this happens due to exceptions in our code, a null pointer exception, anything, or a timeout issues, or any database failure issues. This is a very common error which we get. So for this, we have to debug the logs and just find out as to what is the issue here. And we have to fix that issue, then only this issue will go. For 403, bad gateway status could indicate that server is acting as a gateway or a proxy. Okay, so here, so since the server might be down, or there might be some connectivity issues between the proxy and the server, so the bad gateway can be caused due to backend server is down, or connected issues between proxy and server, and the timeout from any backend server also. So in this scenario, it is going to send 40502 bad gateway status code. Okay, 503 service enable status code is to handle the request due to maintenance or overloading. So the service may not be available. Maybe you're doing some maintenance, so maintenance on the server side, or the server itself may be overloaded with many requests. So in that specific scenario, it is going to send back the 503 service unavailable issue. Okay, yeah, this is what it is indicating here. So for debugging any issues related, we need to ensure that we are sending the correct URL or any correct authentication details. We are using the correct HTTP method is being used. We should validate the request header which you are sending, or the authentication token if you are using for authentication. So you should validate all the site initially. Or any exceptions comes on the server side, you should check your logs for any exceptions on the server side, or any business logic failure, or any database issue. Okay, we should check all the logs for an exception to resolve the issues on the server side. Okay, you should use a tool like Postman for testing all this API. It's very handy. You can set up the URL, request headers, authentication details, and everything, and you can see the response also using this tool. Okay, so that's it from my side for this tutorial. Hope it was helpful.